Okay, we're about to geek out here, so get your geeky glasses on. We're going to learn pulse width modulation. So the way that this DC motor right here works is that this digital computer sends a signal to this DC motor to make it run. Now the DC motor likes to see DC, which is a constant DC voltage. Computers can't do that very easily, so what they do is they switch on and off a voltage very fast to make it seem like it's a constant voltage. When you hook up an oscilloscope, you can figure out what it's sending to that motor. So in this case, we have a DC, this is a square wave, so this is actually an AC voltage. The frequency is 32 kilohertz, so about 32,000 times a second is when this peak occurs. So every second that goes by, 32,000 times, 32,000 times, 32,000 times, every second. Up, down, 32,000 times a second. So what this oscilloscope can do for me is it can tell me what the average voltage, so the peak voltage, in this case we have 10 volts per division, this is about 3 divisions, so our peak voltage is about 30 volts. And 0 volts down here at the bottom. So what this thing is seeing is 0 volts, 30 volts, 0 volts, 30 volts. And that happens 32,000 times a second. So what this oscilloscope can do is it can calculate and tell me what's the average voltage, what's that motor actually think that it's seeing for DC voltage. Well, in this case, on the slow speed, we're getting between 10 and 12 volts, so about 11 volts is what we'll call that. So the RMS value is what that DC motor thinks that it's seeing for DC voltage, because it's changing so fast it looks like it's a flat line to that motor. Then we can go to a medium speed and see how that changes. So this thing's not going to trigger very well at this speed, but what you can see here is in a medium speed we have about half the time. See how the length of the top one is about the same as the length of the bottom one. So this is on about half the time. Again, frequency does not change. That's the carrier frequency of this wave. The voltage, the RMS voltage in this case is about 18 volts that motor sees when we're in a middle, like our medium speed. And then when we go to our fastest speed, when you look at this, you're going to notice that now it looks about the opposite of what it did in the beginning. It's on about the same time it was off in the beginning. So we're not getting a full 30 volts, but we're getting closer to it. And if you look at our voltage, that's about 23 volts. 23 volts, and our frequency stays the same, because that's a carrier frequency set by a little crystal that's in there. This right here is giving that motor about 23 to 24 volts DC. And we go back down so you don't have that loud background noise. And we're again down here at this low voltage, about 11 to 12. So we go from about 11 volts all the way up to about 23 volts. That is how pulse width modulation works. We are modulating the width of this pulse, giving you that high voltage. So the faster we go, the bigger that pulse gets. So we just modulated it to make that pulse larger. The time from here to here is the same. You're maintaining the same frequency. You're just keeping this higher voltage on for a longer period of time. Bet you didn't think you were going to learn pulse width modulation during this video.